looking back. You heard it all before now. Losing what you didn't know you had. What you wanted, needed, but you're really trying to get away from me. Instincts overpowering. You still have this urge. This could be good enough for us. This could be good enough for us. When this could be good enough for us.
Wyatt Tinsley sends it to the outside. He can't get there. Kevin King is going to win the Bristol FTF Cup Series.
Into the lead. Bud gets wrecked in front of the pack. He saves it. 3-4 wide as they come to the white flag.
Here comes Vargas down on the apron. They are 5 wide. Ian Plash will win it at the line. Is this package? Oh, there goes Jordan Lopez Jr. That's your race leader. Caution flag is out.
Still no one willing to give up as they're going to be dead even off of the first chicane.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas.
Get your foot there.
He's got it. He's got it.
Canvas is going to win.
Round 2 of the qualifying series. One more shot after tonight to make the top 20.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of guys that were talking about this race really as the wild card of this round, where you look at the schedule and we have that road course in to shake things up. We saw that one was chaotic, and really the first 3 or 4 rounds were super chaotic from what we've had here in round 2. But coming here to tonight, not a lot of people know how this race really is going to go, with how the dirt's going to play in from, this is the only dirt race we have on the schedule, period. So lots of variables to take account for tonight. And it's going to be a fun one here with Bristol and then obviously Homestead to close things out here in 2 weeks.
This is arguably the biggest wild card that we have in this series outside of the road course. And we saw how chaotic the ending of the road course in round 2 was at Mid-Ohio back at the beginning of this. Spencer Kostowitz leads almost all the way and then gets dumped by a lap car the last lap of the race, and Daniel Botafuoco comes through to get the victory. So who's to say it may not be just as crazy tonight? Who knows?
Yeah, and I mean, again, we've had 2 winners so far, and then you had Taylor Hurst throw his name into the ring, and now again the question becomes, do we see Botafuoco and Navarro step back up again, or are we going to see another new winner tonight? Kind of building on momentum towards as we get towards the deciding that top 20. And again, not a lot has been decided. We obviously have a very top-heavy kind of look at our point schedule right now, but around that buffer zone, it is a 2 to 3 point gap for probably the 10, 15 guys out right now. So a lot of them have a very good shot at making it. All they have to do is put together some consistent rounds. The only problem is tonight is not going to be a night where you see a lot of consistency, just because of the variance from everything else we've seen all year long.
Well, let's take a look at those point standings before we bring you our starting grid this evening. We've got a moment. So here is what the top of the standings look like. These are the top 20 in points that, if this series ended today, would advance into the eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series for 2023. We see Botafogo and Hurst are just about on the verge of qualifying already. I'm not 100% sure. They may lock in tonight with a start if they take the green flag. It'll be mighty close for those two. But you should expect to see Botafogo and Hurst by and large in this series in some way, shape, or form, and in the contender series coming up. Everybody else on the top, call it 5, 6, 7, in pretty good shape so far, and then it's a full-on brawl all the way down to 20th, and then Caleb, as we'll see as we look past 20th, it's not much clearer of a picture beyond that 20th position.
Yeah, and mentioned how close that buffer was, and you see Ray Alfala right there, only 1 point out. Eddie Kerner tied right now with 20th. Spencer Kostowitz, 23rd, you see there. James Wenzel. All of these guys for about those 10 spots out within a 12-point buffer right now, which goes to show you how close, I mean, that line is. And, it starts to get a little murkier as you get towards, that 35th-ish area, to where, if you're a guy like Yusuf Ghali or Austin Johnson, maybe a little more panic has set in at this point. But for everybody, again, 35th to about that 21st, 20th buffer, still, you have a shot if you just put together a consistent run here tonight.
I also did check the math very quickly on Botafogo and Hurst. They are, with drops, 40 points north of the cut line. If they can maintain that gap and or go 41 points north of it, they will automatically lock in going into the finale. Wouldn't even have to show up in 2 weeks in order to make it to the Contender Series. Here's your starting grid for tonight. This is race 6 of 7 in the qualifying series round 2 for 2023. James Holzer with a fast time of 18.261 seconds. Then Kevin Champagne to his outside. Brendan Meal and Brad Wright go in row 2. Spencer Kostowicz, who we mentioned, and Philip Groner. Row 3, Ryan Hill starts in 7th. Caden Rush 8th. Seth DeMerchant and Noah Bitts complete the top 10.
Looking on back to 11th, it'll be Blaze Crawford inside of row number 6, with Tanner Love starting 12th to his outside. Matt Kemp's rolling off 13th here tonight, with James Witzel 14th in that number 43 truck. The previously aforementioned Ray Alfala only 1 point out of that top 20 right now. He'll roll off in row number 8 on the inside, starting 15th. Max Brady to his outside in the 16th position. Andrew Navarro has 2 wins in this round, hoping to pick up a third here at Bristol Dirt. He'll roll off 17th tonight, with Kenny Brady alongside him in that number 8 truck, row 9. Then you'll have in 19th Hunter Johnson, and then alongside him, completing your top 20, Austin Johnson. Got a pair of them right there.
Your final 10 starters looked like this. Daniel Smallwood in 21st. Taylor Hurst, who won 2 weeks ago at the Milwaukee Mile, starts 22nd. Chris Wetz rolls off from 23rd. Kwame Scott starts from 24th. 25th will be Kenny Humphrey. Alex Kalanick starts 26th. Matthew Baer is on the inside of row 14. To his outside in 28th, Tommy Gossett and Christopher Hill and Jonathan Delaney complete our 30-car grid for tonight's race at Bristol. Let's look at the track facts quickly before we go green flag racing. This is Bristol Motor Speedway, but it's the dirt configuration, so it's still just over half a mile, just over 8 cents of a kilometer in distance, but the banking changes a little bit. 22 to 24 degrees of banking in the corners and 9 degrees of banking on the straightaways. Tonight, we go for 110 laps, just under 60 miles, just over 90 kilometers, and we will keep our eyes peeled on who ends up towards the top of the field. The in-sim time for those curious: Saturday, August 12th, 2023, right around 8:45 p.m. local time. Air temp 83 degrees Fahrenheit, track temp 74 degrees Fahrenheit, winds headed to the south at 6 miles an hour, and humidity of 62%. As the lights are off on the pace truck, and we will get set to go racing on the dirt here at Bristol Motor Speedway momentarily in race 6 of 7 in round 2 of the 2023 eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. James Holzer gets on the gas pedal, jumps ahead of Kevin Champagne, and we are underway with racing in the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series on the dirt at Bristol Motor Speedway. Well gone is James Holzer, and off and away, clear by 7/10 of a second already. And the first 4 or 5 trucks have already strung it out. You have to go back to Brad Wright, Philip Groner, and Ryan Hill to find any sort of battle. But it is astounding to me how quickly this field has gone single file, Caleb.
Yeah, and interesting as well, we had 3 trucks that dipped down to the pit lane. It was Kenny Brady, Blaze Crawford, and one other truck mentioned that they had to put fuel in it. So interesting there. And you can see around this racetrack right now, we were single file for just a second, but already in the back, spanning out 3, almost 4 wide.
Well, if you remember a year ago at this race, that was the very strategy that Altus Esports used in order to get the top 5 spots on the pylon and get the victory as well. So if this goes green flag, watch for the drivers that have just come down pit road. They need it to go green, but if it goes green the entire way, like it pretty much did last year, I think we had maybe one early yellow, but it will end up looking like a very big brain move for all of the people that just came down pit road. So watch for that. Now, this year, there are no surprises. This year, we know the potential of that strategy. It's just a matter of whether or not you think it's worth the risk.
Absolutely. And right now, again, just such a dynamic type of track here, the dirt, and you got to chase this moisture around everywhere, and you can see that with everybody fanning around trying to run different lines. Absolutely not your conventional style of racing here.
Because the track will evolve and it will change as we see a few more drivers in for service and a few more folks trying to sort things out in the back, but it still Holzer in control of this. Then Champagne, Brendan Meal, then Costawis, Philip Groner, Brad Wright, as you get a good look here up at some of the action just all over the place here. This is Austin Johnson that we ride on board with. This is for the 15th spot, just ahead of him, Daniel Smallwood, Matt Kemp, and last race's winner, Taylor Hurst.
Yeah, this is a fun and very interesting group right here. And again, mentioned Taylor Hurst. All he really needs here tonight is just a solid run, and he'll, more than likely be in. So just running around, making laps, and making sure he doesn't get into trouble right now has been the big thing for him. And you see Christopher Hill down to his inside, Matt Kemp and Daniel Smallwood working on each other as well, hoping they can get up to her.
Everybody looking for where the group is going to be. However, what's intriguing about this race in particular is that there is a preferred group, but that will change. It will evolve over the course of the race. Such is the nature of dirt racing. So you may see drivers on the bottom early. You may see drivers go up top later, so we see a few more trucks come down pit road. And I think it's interesting to me how many trucks are electing to make the early stop compared to last year. It was only about 3 or 4, if my memory serves me correctly, 1 year ago. This time around, I can tell you that pretty much a solid third of the field has already come down for what should be their one fuel stop.
And you mentioned we know that that's a viable strategy this year, so a lot of guys that are opting to play that long green flag run perhaps. Almost ruined it there, though. You saw Spencer Kostowitz on your screen. He made contact with Blaze Crawford for just a minute. That's Philip Groner, excuse me, and that number 11 truck tagged the outside wall. And a pretty close call there, and you can see already with just how little room there is to operate here at Bristol Dirt, this contact can come around and put you out.
Worth noting that you have a mixture of lap down trucks and lead lap trucks in this pack. You see Seth DeMerchant on the far left-hand side of your screen. He is one of the drivers that came down pit road already. Just behind him is Spencer Kostowis, who currently runs in the 5th position, but has yet to pit. So, it could be interesting to see. I don't think, given that the drivers who pitted came down so early, there's not really a tire advantage, so you don't necessarily have to worry about differences in pace. Maybe more differences in skill and aptitude given the surface, but certainly should not be looking at a situation like we see on a long green flag run on a 1.5-mile racetrack where you're down 1.5 seconds on lap times on old tires compared to the new, and sometimes that's what brings about incidents and brings about trouble and brings about cautions.
Absolutely, and you can still see this group with Kostowitz looking around right now. Still seeing, I mean, I know you mentioned there was some single file going on, but I mean, these guys have been racy. Right outside this top 10 has been an area where we've been looking at, and guys have not been afraid to try to test out different lines. And you can see the rubber that's already been put down on the track from where everybody is kind of just spreading out around this racetrack right now. And like you've mentioned as well, as this track evolves, it's going to force you to run different lines and just throws another variable into it.
Will indeed. Just a little bit further back, get a good look at Philip Groner. He's in the 4th position, trying to keep Noah Bitts at bay, who has managed to clear Kostowicz and jumped ahead to the 5th spot. And there goes Groner to the outside. Bitts trying to run that low lane. Groner trying to find that cushion, that edge, right where the packed-in dirt and the sort of looser dirt meet. Typically, especially with dirt late models and sprint cars, that tends to be where the most grip is. So it makes sense that we see Groner and a few other drivers up there, but Bitts trying to work the more traditional oval line to find some speed.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good call for sure. You see a lot of guys that are right up against that wall trying to get on that cushion, and you can see that run that Christopher Hill gets from running up there on Noah Bitts. And it's very difficult to run all the way up there, but it will pay dividends for you. And Bitts right now, like you said, trying to run that more conventional oval arc here in the corners. Up to his outside, I believe Philip Groner just tagged the wall a little bit. Looks like Christopher Hill running that top lane is going to be able to get around Bitts here. Maybe putting some work on Groner.
Nah, Hill's going to split the middle and get them both, and that was a bit sketchy for all 3 of them. Hill clearly has speed. He's also one of the drivers that came down pit road, so he scored in 21st, but he's racing around 3rd place Brendan Meal, who will, I would argue, wisely decides to let Hill go at this stage. And next up for everybody in this pack will be Alex Kolinix, who came down pit road a little bit later than everybody else, and as such is on the tail end of actually no, I take that back, just went 2 laps down as a matter of fact.
And still watching this group, you can see Hunter Johnson, who is scored 28th right now, another one of those trucks. He actually just came down the pit road just about 2 laps ago, so might have a little bit of an advantage here mid-corner on guys like Philip Groner, who is sitting on that buffer in the top 5, running 5th right now. Spencer Kostowicz trying to chase him down, just kind of difficult when you have this 12 truck in the way, and they almost make a little bit of contact down the backstretch.
A little bit of contact indeed there. That got a little bit sketchy between some of the drivers. Here's Kostowicz, who now works just behind a few more trucks on the racetrack. To his inside is Max Brady, who has pit. To his outside is Hunter Johnson, who is also pit, and Kostowicz has stayed out on the racetrack.
And Kostowicz all over the back end of Max Brady there for just a second. Max Brady, who's had a sort of inconsistent run, but has some good finishes sprinkled in to his round 2 so far. Just trying to come home with a good one here tonight, currently running 22nd. And that number 17 truck, you see Hunter Johnson still to his outside, trying to work that very top lane. It's been interesting to see here, especially on exits of the corners. A lot of these guys, when they pan out in the corners, you know, running top, bottom, middle, wherever, you know, everybody tries to get up to that outside, and it has almost put us in some precarious spots in terms of contact. Watching Noah Bitts, Brennan Meal right now, both of those guys have been all over each other the past few laps.
Also, saw in Twitch chat here on the FTF.GG Twitch channel that some folks are wondering about clinch scenarios, and I think officially, I'll walk you through the math here, Caleb, and make sure that I'm not as nutty as I think I might be on this one, but I actually do think I've got this right. So, if you take a look at Daniel Buttafuoco's 2nd worst finish of round 2, it was at Milwaukee. He got 34 points. His worst finish was at Indianapolis Raceway Park. He got 33 points. So there's a 1-point difference between those two. So you incorporate that, plus the 40 that you would need to be ordered to be good going into Homestead outright, plus the 1 to mathematically clear it. And that, to me, makes his magic number at the end of the night plus 42, I believe. Because even with the drop, even if he had like a terrible finish and had the drop, and this ended up being his drop, he'd still only lose 2 points per se. So I believe plus 42 is the number for Buttafuoco, just as I look at the map.
And again, just building that buffer is what's important. And coming into tonight, being he and Taylor Hurst both 40 points above that cut line, they're in good positions again if they can just run a consistent race here tonight. Taylor Hurst running 17th right now. Probably would like to accrue a few more points, but it isn't really in too, hectic of a scenario where he needs to be out here making crazy moves. I say that and he hits the wall. Doesn't need to be doing any of that. But, you know, both of those guys in Taylor Hurst and Daniel Buttafuoco have set themselves up very nicely. And I think just need to run with their head on their shoulders today.
Looking at Taylor Hurst, the other one that has a realistic opportunity to do it, there's a bit more of a gap between his second worst and worst finishes of round 2. His second worst was at Pocono. He picked up 34 points. His worst was at Michigan, where he picked up 20. So it's a 14-point difference between those two finishes, which to me makes his magic number exiting tonight plus 55. There we go. Yeah, 41 plus 14. So 55 for Hurst, 43 for Buttafuoco. And we say all of this with the caveat that even if you don't necessarily quite hit it, there is a strong possibility and a very likely possibility that even if Hurst in particular doesn't necessarily hit that number, that depending on how many trucks are in the field at Homestead in 2 weeks' time, he could very realistically lock in with a start and potentially claim his spot in the Contender Series by taking the green flag in 2 weeks.
Looking right ahead of him, Alex Kolnick, right now running 27th to the inside of Taylor Hurst. And like I said, seen a lot of guys coming down the pit road here, and very interesting in comparison to last year here at Bristol Dirt. And all this will get thrown away if there's a caution. This is on board right now with James Holzer, and you see he's in the middle 3 wide. This is not a fun spot to be in if you're trying to win this thing.
This is a scary spot to be in if you're James Holzer, because you've got traffic to your outside, traffic to your inside. You've got teammates all over the place as well as they stuff it up in the fence just ahead of him. That was James Wenzel that ended up or was up in the fence with about 2 other trucks there just a moment ago. So if you're Holzer, you actually probably don't mind a caution, truthfully. The one who doesn't want a caution more than anyone else, even though he's been able to claw back a lot of his track position after pitting, but Seth DeMerchant, who's up to 9th after pitting 2 laps after the green flag. If this race can go green, it really plays out into Seth's hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that kind of that fuel strategy game. Merchant definitely doesn't want one, and I think anybody that hasn't come down the pit road yet who is kind of committed to maybe, hey, seeing an anomaly caution thrown in the middle here would be, you know, that top 8. You've mentioned guys like Holzer, obviously, Noah Bitts up inside the top 3. Kostowitz, another guy who's been trying to just work his way up and run a smooth race. So interesting all around. One truck just tagged the wall. I believe this group of 3. You see one truck coming down the pit road. That's number 43. But yeah, this group right here, Kevin Champagne, Daniel Smallwood, Noah Bitts getting super racy, and Champagne has actually tagged the wall about twice here in the last 2 laps.
I feel like half the field's already tagged the wall, but as we saw Kyle Larson do at Eldora not too long ago, with these trucks, you really have to beat down the right side of these things in order to actually damage them. There's a lot that you can do. As I think Daniel Smallwood just pulled off just behind these drivers to come down pit road for service. So intriguing how we've already seen almost half the field come in to pit. Nice stop there for Smallwood, though. We saw Wenzel miss his box. That's the 43 that you were talking about. He had to back it up and reverse it in, so he lost a little bit of time there. But really, really nice stop for Smallwood to get it in right square on position, and hopefully going to pass pit stop and get out of there as we see somebody else back sideways now after being backwards on pit road.
And focusing our attention back to this group, Taylor Hurst has tagged the wall big time. Austin Johnson as well. You mentioned having to beat the right side of that truck down, and Hurst and Hunter Johnson both about did that there. And you see Austin Johnson off the pace a little bit, getting passed there by a few trucks. Might have accrued some pretty heavy damage there. Might come down the pit lane.
Potentially, we see another truck come down to pit road to get a little bit of service. This is it's interesting to see how it's already now starting to creep up into the top 10, the drivers who've already come in down pit road for service. So this has paid off nicely for Seth DeMerchant, where even if we got a yellow now, you know, you still probably lose a bit of track position if you are DeMerchant. He started in the 9th position, so Actually, I'd take the back would gain a few spots. So this, I'd take that back. This really actually has worked out way better for Seth the Merchant.
Trouble! Hunter Johnson just tagged the pit road wall. Got up into Andrew Navarro, Seth the Merchant as well. And that will put us under the first caution of the night.
Advantage, Holzer, Bitch, Champagne, Groner, Meal, Kostowitz, everybody that had not pit yet then. Very, 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 very big wrinkle in this race that we did not have a year ago. So that is going to completely flip strategy for everybody.
And mentioned, all it takes is one anomaly caution. We get it right there. Just gets too low. Almost spins it in the middle of the corner, and then that just arcs him right towards that pit road wall. He makes big contact. Watch Seth the Merchant, who we're on board with here. Brad Wright right in front of him. You watch Hunter Johnson, bam, and then make contact. Andrew Navarro, I thought he collected damage in that, but he just narrowly squeaks through. What a great job to avoid damage on that truck. Not the same for DeMerchant right there.
He may have picked up just a little bit of damage on the left-hand side, but not a lot here, as we see more drivers trouble getting into their boxes. Noah Bitts had to back up a little bit so he could lose some track position, as most of the leaders are going to come down for service and fix things up, trying to see who's going to stay out. Only two, I take that back, 3 drivers that are going to hang out on the racetrack from the top 10. James Holzer, Philip Groner, and Max Brady. Those who decided to stay in for service. Everybody else off and away off of pit road. It was Brennan Meal who won the battle amongst those who came in for service. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with more action here from the dirt track at Bristol Motor Speedway. You're watching coverage of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series on the FCF.GG Twitch channel. Back to green flag racing here in the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series on the dirt version of Bristol Motor Speedway. James Pike, Caleb Hoffman here, bringing you all the action. Lap 56 we work now, so halfway through this race just about now, and Holzer had the lead for a moment. Seth the Merchant with that early pit stop has driven back through the field and is your new race leader in Thunder Valley.
And looking throughout the field right now, still lots of 3-4 wide, lots of aggression throughout the pack right now. A little bit of contact that's been made in multiple places. Watch Max Brady tag the wall big time. 3 wide group right around this 10th place battle. Noah Bitts, Kevin Champagne, Brad Wright, all these guys right in the thick of it. And you have Ray Alfala, Kostowitz, a lot of big names right around this bubble if things go awry.
Keeping a close eye on Kenny Brady. He is up on the wall more aggressively than most and just got clear of James Holzer for the 5th position. We're starting to see a few more drivers head up that way, but a lot less input on the steering wheel for Brady than some of the other drivers towards the front of the field.
And looking around, oh, more contact. Rail foul almost went around off the bumper of Kevin Champagne there. And still mentioned, that one anomaly caution could turn into more very easily with how close these guys are racing throughout the mid-pack.
Want to keep an eye here on Kenny Brady very closely. And just keeping an eye on where he is in points and how nice this is. Remember, this is a driver who decided to take 2 weeks off and needed a bit of a mental health reset in the middle of the year and came back. Milwaukee got 17 points. Not the greatest of finishes, but still something. But if he wants any shot at making this happen, he's going to have a big, big night here. And Blaze Crawford is taking that high line with him, but staying off the fence a little bit more than Brady is.
And that right side taking a beating for Kenny Brady, who has moved up into the 2nd position right now. Blaze Crawford down to the inside. Look at Caden Rush as well. Both of them going to be side by side for the 2nd position as Seth the Merchant has continued to pull away. Big send here for Rush, trying to do the slide job on Blaze Crawford. Crawford, though, with the momentum on that outside, will take it back.
Brady is pretty much knocked down the wall to get the 2nd, no doubt about it. Blaze Crawford falling the line right behind him, and then DeMerchant still clear of this, but keeping an eye on lap times here. DeMerchant was actually a little bit faster than Brady and Crawford, but a yellow flag out a little bit further back in the field. 2nd caution this evening.
Going to be Daniel Smallwood, and he went around briefly on the backstretch, a little bit of contact again with that group that was right on the cusp of the top 10, and we'll get a replay right here for you on ftf.gg, but it was Daniel Smallwood who falls all the way back to 25th right now, and just watch this group. You'll see almost 5-6 wide there for a second. Brad Wright gets spun, and then there goes Smallwood down to the inside wall and puts us under our 2nd caution of the day. And again, that's just what's going to happen when you got guys fanning out like that in the corner. One little mishap, and it's going to probably not ruin your night, but going to make it tough for the rest of it here. You see,
I think by my math, that was at least 5 wide, maybe 6 wide at that point in the corner. And when you have that many different lines crossing, there's no way that's going to work.
Absolutely. And again, when you mentioned that you got to get up to that outside wall on the straightaways, it's just not going to work out very well for you. And that's something you got to be very cognizant of here at Bristol Dirt. You see a few trucks on pit road, and Kevin Champagne, Brandon Meal, they'll have to get back going here.
$65 laps complete now, 66 up on the board, so 44 to go. Beginning to work our way towards the back end of tonight's race here at the dirt version of Bristol Motor Speedway. While we have a moment, and as this field get lines up, we'll take a moment to remind you of some of the other events coming up on the FTF.GG Twitch channel over the next few weeks. You've got 2 consecutive weeks of FTF Cup Series racing. It's a Sunday night race at Bristol Concrete proper for the Bar Visuals FTF Cup Series this Sunday night at 8 p.m. You've also got Winstel from Dover Motor Speedway at 8 p.m. Then Thursday night, you've got sim car racing, sports car racing from Fuji Speedway in Japan. And then next Saturday night, FTF Cup Series back in action from Iowa before Winstel closes out Sunday, September 24th. That week, we'll wrap up things with action from Talladega Super Speedway. And you can watch all those races here on twitch.tv/FTF_GG, the FTF.GG Twitch channel URL.
And lots of fun things coming up here, and going to be fun, especially for FTF as we close out the first round of the playoffs there, and going to be fun here for the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series, obviously tonight, and then Homestead. Already been a pretty crazy one so far, James, and wasn't expecting to see the 2 cautions that we have, but nonetheless, you know, we could very well see another one here, which would throw this race into even further chaos, you think?
Potentially, there certainly is the potential for that, or potential for that. I think bigger question is going to be which lines people take and what possibility people have or don't have to really shake things up on that front. As Seth Merchant will be the control car on the inside, to his outside, Kenny Brady will go green flag racing from the dirt at Bristol here, coming out of turn 4. We saw Brady work that high line pretty prolifically and work the fence as well. So we'll see whether or not he adopts that same strategy to try and take the lead away.
Yeah, going to be interesting here. It can very well backfire for him. Blaze Crawford going to slide right up in front of Kenny Brady, who will fall back to third momentarily. Seth the Merchant guarding this inside lane from Blaze Crawford, who is all over the back bumper now, and almost a little bit of contact. There is contact for second place now. Both of them keep it going, but all this happening in the rear view of Seth the Merchant.
So we'll see if the Merchant changes his lanes at all. We've got Brady up there on the top side. He's going to draw even with the Merchant on corner exit, and the Merchant will slide right through the middle. Brady continues to hold the top side, and now it might be Brady versus Crawford for the race lead. Brady up there now. First truck on the outside line. Crawford to second. To Merchant trying to run the middle to get third.
3 wide for the lead right here. Kenny Brady all the way up against that wall. Blaze Crawford going to slot into the second position, and now look at Kenny Brady in the lead, knocking that wall down. Blaze Crawford down to the inside. They're going to be side by side for just a second, but once again, Brady going to get that momentum.
So Brady running the wall line like nobody else. Everybody else pretty much down on the inside lane at this stage. That's where the groove is gone for pretty much everyone else. But Brady is up there, and one more truck I see just a little bit further back in this field too has decided to start working up that top side. I saw Caden rush there for a little bit, but Brady clear for the moment.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see if everybody can chase him back down. His brother Max Brady right now has moved into the top 4 as well, trying to get to the inside of Seth the Merchant. Caden Rush inside the top 5 as well. All of these trucks really right under a blanket right now in terms of Bristol dirt.
Yellow flag out once again. Trouble a little bit further back. Taylor Hurst, one of the ones involved, and I believe James Wenzel is the other. This incident over in 3 and 4 on lap 74.
And mentioned Taylor Hurst is one of the guys that just needed to keep his head on straight, and not a great start to this race for him. He was running about that top 20 position. Rick starts a little up ahead of him, and it involves former race leader in James Holster. James Wenzel obviously gets the worst of it, getting turned around from the front bumper of Bennett Meal, and you can see Hurst there as well, spinning around, making some contact.
Those two spin sideways, and everybody at this point, I think, done with pit stops. So this is solely at this point just to bunch up the competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just another stack up type thing there. It's easy to do when you got that many trucks right there all mixed up together. And this will be interesting. Kenny Brady as the control car on this restart here. Got to wonder, how he's going to get up to the high side with Blaze Crawford right there. DeMerchant as well, going to try to chase him back down, which all these guys have race-winning speed. Max Brady we've seen on the climb. Caden Rush, Christopher Hill as well. So this is going to be shaping up to be an interesting third restart, especially when you consider we're going to be almost inside 30 laps to go.
Could be wild here. We'll keep an eye on the pace truck and see if lights go out next time by probably a lap and a half before we go green flag racing.
Again, just want to highlight some names that we have up inside this top 10 right now. Noah Bitts has been somebody that's consistently up inside of this top 10. Jonathan Delaney has been on the climb, and Ray Alfala as well has worked his way up inside the top 10 at this point. Mentioned before the show how he was only 1 point out, and a good run here tonight would push him super far in terms of making it back into the top 20 for Ray Alfala. So a good start for him. And Brad Wright as well inside this top 10. We've seen him spin multiple times so far tonight, and he has done a fantastic job of keeping this number 25 up inside the top 10 and hoping to rebound a little bit from those incidents earlier on here, late race at Bristol Dirt.
Lights still on the pace truck, so we'll reset the top 10 for you. It's Brady, Kenny, that is. Then Blaze Crawford, Seth the Merchant. Max Brady sits in 4th, Kenny's brother. Caden Rush, Christopher Hill, Noah Pitts, Jonathan Delaney, Ray Alfala. That could be a fun one when we consider that Ray is currently 1 point off the back of the top 20. One singular point.
Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job tonight. Just a few more spots, and he'll be in a great spot.
All eyes up on Brady, Crawford, DeMerchant, Brady, Rush. Still lights on the pace truck. Probably the longest caution I think we've had tonight, truthfully.
And again, coming down the backstretch here, this is going to be a very interesting restart. You know, if you're Blaze Crawford or Seth the Merchant, what's your strategy here to try to get the lead from Kenny Brady? I think that remains to be seen. Max Brady right here in the top 5 as well. Caden Rush, Christopher Hill, Noah Pitts. All these guys going to be in contention for this thing inside 30 laps to go.
Coming down on the back straightaway. Also worth noting, just pulled a snippet up from the iRacing Sporting Code, section 8118. Drivers may not use nefarious tactics to gain an advantage in qualifying or racing, and iRacing can and will determine what constitutes an advantage to its discretion. So, worth keeping that in mind as we watch how these drivers race against each other for the final 80, or take that back, 30 laps, rather. Got the math backwards as Brady bounces off the wall once again. Here comes DeMerchant to his inside. Back together for the race lead in turn 3.
And look at Seth DeMerchant here. Kenny Brady knocking this wall down still. DeMerchant trying to slide up in front of him, just can't do it. Going to drop back down to the inside to try to take the lead away from Kenny Brady, but Kenny Brady might have big damage on the side of this truck soon.
It's going to be, can you find the sweet spot with which you come off the wall versus do you bend anything in the suspension, especially on that right-hand side? That's what he's going to have to fight for.
Interesting for sure. Max Brady, Blaze Crawford still in pursuit of these two who are still side by side. The Merchant did a fantastic job. He might have an opportunity if he keeps that up to get a good slide job in on Kenny Brady, who is still in the wall, but now going to get that momentum and propel himself forward.
Way, way up in it, too. You can see the difference there, how much DeMerchant's able to slide the bottom versus how much Brady has got the thing pretty much straight line there, just about lost it as you get a good look on board Max Brady's machine. It's the Brady brothers all over DeMerchant for the race lead.
Yeah, in the middle of a Brady sandwich is Seth the Merchant right now. He's still trying to get back up in front of Kenny Brady right now. And Brady's still up in that wall, but here comes Max Brady, going to put the bumper to the back of Seth the Merchant. Tried to move him out of the way, just couldn't do it.
Almost like we have two different races at this point. You've got Brady versus the wall and himself versus DeMerchant, and then Max Brady to the inside, who have not gotten into each other yet, but are close.
Absolutely, and lots of clean, respectful racing going on between these two, and Blaze Crawford as well, who restarted on the outside and is just trying to chase him back down at this point. Look at Seth the Merchant to the inside, trying to make something work, but can't quite finish the move off. Max Brady trying to move himself into second as well. All of these guys inside, 25 laps to go, just trying to tick some laps down.
DeMerchant and Brady are pretty much on top of one another, and it's impressive given that there is a speed advantage if you just outright use the wall. I think everybody is aware of that, but even still, it's impressive to see DeMerchant run that bottom groove as well as he has and stay in touch with Brady when you know that there's usually a disadvantage, and Brady caught the wall the wrong way the last time, and so now DeMerchant is in control of this just for a slight moment.
Chris Wetz just got dumped by Kenny Brady, who was up on the wall and just drove through the back end of Chris Wetz, who was inside the top 20, turns him around, and will put us under caution once again within 20 laps to go. And I don't think there's any other way to illustrate that other than Chris Wetz. I mean, I know he's a lap truck, but just got driven through. I mean, not even an attempt to get around him.
I would say in most real life racing series, and especially in the short track world that we're used to, the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour that I cover on a regular basis, that would be the 8 truck to the rear for causing a caution.
Yeah, and I mean, again, just no attempt to get around Chris Wetz there, and I don't know, disappointing there, but fourth caution of the day inside 20 laps to go. It sets us up interestingly again. Gives Seth the Merchant that control of this restart once again. Max Brady, who's done a fantastic job of climbing up inside this top 3 here at the end of this thing, and might have a shot at getting it from Seth the Merchant. Blaze Crawford hoping for a rebound as well. Some more trucks on the pit lane. You see Brennan Meal there getting some left sides. Philip Groner, Ryan Hill, Hunter Johnson as well, all on the pit lane at the moment. But gonna be interesting inside what should be around 15 laps to go on this restart, and will set us up nicely for a good run to the end, hopefully.
Caleb, let me ask you this, because I think it's a fair question at this point. If you're Seth the Merchant, you know Kenny Brady's game plan. He's going to be up on the fence. He's going to effectively use the fence to turn. He will inherently be about a tenth or so faster every single lap. So you know that you're not really going to be fighting a fair fight if you run that inside line. So how do you approach this? And or do you care about winning this race all that much when you've got a pretty solid points gap as is?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. Now, you know, if wins were a little more important, I would say if you're Seth the Merchant, you would go up to that outside wall and just try to take that lane away from Kenny Brady. But that would be a very risky move. We just saw what happens when a truck comes in front of that number 8 truck, and it did not result very well for the truck that did get up in front of him. And I'd say if you're Seth the Merchant right now, just coming home with the points is going to be the most important thing at the end of the day. A second place finish here is going to help you a lot, especially with just one race left at Homestead in comparison if you got turned. Having to fight your way back inside 20 laps to go from, say, the 15th, 20th position, just not a very good spot to be in. So I'd say if he's committed to doing this, then don't just let him have it, but maybe stick with what you're doing and just hope that the cards fall the right way for you.
I'm also keeping my eye on lap 110 in particular, because they've been close enough to where if you wanted to, you could pull a move at the end and probably leave so little time at the end that you wouldn't be able to pay somebody back. There is that thought that certainly has run across my mind too. Whether or not any of these drivers actually decide to execute on that, I don't know, but it's a possibility. I think we'd be remiss not to acknowledge. So, lined up behind the pace truck again, 15 laps to go. Brady up top, DeMerchant down on bottom. Race lead, all theirs to fight for, as it's a little bit of a bigger pinch from Kenny down to the inside. He was nearly on the right rear quarter panel of Seth the Merchant coming down to the start-finish line, but there goes Brady up on the wall once again, and he caught it, I think, so he'll slide back in line behind Max Brady, and there's contact. There goes Max Brady, spun around, and no yellow flag yet because he somehow manages to straighten it back out, but he falls from 3rd all the way back to 13th on the track.
A big shakeup throughout the rest of the top 5 right now as they try to figure that out. Seth the Merchant is taking the lead from Kenny Brady. You see a few more trucks off the pace back there, but as you mentioned, no caution. Blaze Crawford getting run over right now by Noah Bitts, all inside the top 5 right now. Big shakeup throughout this race, all within 12 laps to go right now. The question is, can Seth the Merchant try to run away with it now?
And or has Kenny Brady bounced off the fence so much that he actually has damaged the right side of his truck, like we all figured? He's got 10 laps to try and run down what is now a 0.6 of a second gap to Seth the Merchant. If he can't, Caden Rush and Christopher Hill are all right in there as well.
Yeah, and right now, Seth the Merchant, last time by, for anybody curious, lap time of right at the line in 18.216, and it was 0.3 slower for Kenny Brady. Caden Rush down to the inside. That outside lane strategy not really working to its perfection right now. He's about 0.3 slower up there as opposed to earlier. Caden Rush moving into the 2nd position now. Now Christopher Hill trying to work into 3rd.
So Seth the Merchant clear by now, call it a full second, as Caden Rush has managed to get to the inside of Kenny Brady. And if DeMerchant can win, I believe that would be second year in a row that Altus Esports goes to victory lane in this particular race. So DeMerchant in really good shape as it stands. The battle now is for that second spot where Rush is starting to get to the inside of Brady. And if Brady's not careful, he might lose a podium position as well.
Yeah, it's not looking good right now for Kenny Brady. He has that momentum on the straightaways, but at this point, that's about all he's got because it is just not even close in the corners. Caden Rush still down to the inside, trying to make it work for second position. Still interlocked in battle right now, but not looking good for that 8 truck on the outside.
Been top 3 all race, been right up against the fence the whole race, but just doesn't quite have the same speed that he had earlier on. Makes you wonder if maybe it was almost smarter to try and wait and not burn off the right side of your machine here as of late. Rush now, I think, is going to relatively conclusively get that second position. This now, I think, is about the battle for third and whether or not Brady can hold off Blaze Crawford, Christopher Hill, Noah Bitts. There are a whole bunch of drivers working their way to the inside of Brady's blue truck.
And definitely inside this top 10 with 5 laps to go. Everybody started to calm down for right now. And as soon as I mentioned that, actually, Noah Bitt's going to go to the inside of Christopher Hill to try to make it into the 5th position. But everywhere else, for the most part, everybody is just calmed down and is running where they're running, not seeing much aggression throughout this top 10 in this field right now. 4 laps to go from the Bristol Motor Speedway.
Kenny Brady continues to work that outside line. Blaze Crawford just there, and then this great battle between Noah Bitts and Christopher Hill that you see on your screens. Those two just about leaning not on the wall but on each other's trucks to try and figure out who wants the spot coming to 2 laps to go.
Yeah, Christopher Hill got forced up the racetrack there from Noah Bitts and now going to lose the position. Going to be under attack by Brad Wright here with 2 laps to go. Can he get back to Noah Bitts to break into this top 5 remains to be seen.
Seth DeMerchant is well clear of everybody by 0.2 of a second here as he takes the white flag at Bristol Motor Speedway. He's had one of the strongest trucks all night long. He pitted early, took advantage of the pit strategy and a few timely yellows to get back towards the front, then outlasted Kenny Brady and company to come away with a victory in the 2nd consecutive season for Altus Esports on the dirt at Bristol Motor Speedway. Caden Rush gets 2nd, and Blaze Crawford was able to take that 3rd position.
And a very good run there for Seth DeMerchant. And great job by Caden Rush, Blaze Crawford, Noah Bitts, Christopher Hill. All these guys up inside the top 5 just ran a fantastic race all night long. And again, Seth DeMerchant, after having damage earlier on in a wreck, will rebound and come home with a victory here tonight. Just what a great drive from the driver of the number 57 truck here from the Bristol Motor Speedway.
Seth DeMerchant, the man here at Thunder Valley on the dirt, he picks up the victory and celebrates just along the front straightaway and is in a very, very good position so far as making it to the Contender Series is concerned. We'll wait for unofficial updates in a few moments, but Seth DeMerchant in great shape now. He came into tonight 10 points clear. That number is going to go up for sure. It's just a matter of just how much it's going to climb and how well everybody else results filter in and where the permutations and combinations blind up. Here's your unofficial results from our race. DeMerchant, your winner, then Caden Rush, then Blaze Crawford. We'll try and get the opportunity to chat with all 3 of those momentarily. Kenny Brady was 4th, Noah Bitts 5th, Christopher Hill was 6th, Kwame Scott, Brad Wright 7th and 8th, then Ray Alfala and Jonathan Delaney completed the top 10.
Looking on to 11th, you'll find Max Brady, who ran up inside the top 5 for a fair portion tonight. Same goes for Spencer Kostowitz, who finishes in the 12th position here at Bristol Motor Speedway. James Holzer led a lot of this race, finishes 13th here tonight. Kevin Champagne in the 14th position. Philip Groner in your 15th position from Bristol Motor Speedway. Brennan Meal, 16th. Matt Kemp, 17th. Kenny Humpy in the 18th position. Ryan Hill, 19th. Rounding out your top 20 is Taylor Hurst.
21st this evening was Alex Kalanick's. Chris West finished in 22nd. Matthew Bear was 23rd, and Daniel Smallwood 24th. Austin Johnson finished in the 25th position. 26th went to Tanner Love. James Wenzel was 27th. Andrew Navarro 28th. Hunter Johnson and Tommy Gossett completed your 30 truck field. keeping an eye on everyone as they come in. We'll go ahead and take the first driver that we've got. Caleb Hoffman, we'll let you start with the driver who finished second this evening. That was Caden Rush.
Yeah, and Caden, a hard-fought race for you for sure. How does it feel in the penultimate race of round number 2 to come home with a second-place finish at Bristol Dirt?
Oh my God. I don't know, like, if this was on a scale 1 to 10, this breaks the scale. Like, I needed this finish so bad, and everything in me wanted to finish so good tonight, and I just knew from the start, and even testing, we were just so good, and I just needed to execute and for things to go my way. And unlike last race, thankfully they did. I'm ecstatic beyond words. Like, I'm shocked. I needed this so bad, and I didn't know how good I was going to do. I'm shocked I haven't started crying yet. I'm so excited.
And you mentioned how things exactly go your way at Milwaukee Mile. You walked out of there with an 18th place finish tonight, and we ran really caution free for about the first half of the race, and we started to get a few sprinkled in there. I mean, talk us through just your drive up through the field, and how you eventually got, you worked your way up into the top 10, into the top 5, and eventually onto the podium.
I mean, we just we had our game plan, and we were clicking off so good those first 50, and I really felt like the only person that was faster than me was Seth, and I felt like if I could have gotten even with him, maybe there was something I could have done in those first 50. Blaze was really fast too. I just knew it was kind of be between us if we didn't get a yellow, and I was really hoping for no yellows the whole race, because I'm good at clicking off a rhythm on dirt. That's like my favorite part about it, is just bottom feeding, clicking off time. The yellows kind of worried me a little bit. I just wasn't very comfortable with being around other people. I didn't know how other people were going to kind of race when the track got to the state where it was going to be just at the bottom the whole time. But luckily everything was clean. I can't thank Seth, Blaze, Max, Chris, everyone who was around me for just racing clean. That was some of the best racing Road to Pro has seen like all year.
Yeah, and then really quickly, obviously, coming into tonight, you were 7th in the point standings in a second-place finish here tonight, going to help you in terms of the buffer to the cut line. Walking into Homestead in 2 weeks, what is your game plan? What's your strategy there in terms of just trying to come home with a consistent finish to ensure that you're in contender?
Like you said, it's all about going in there, clicking off a solid finish. I don't need to do anything fancy. I don't need to do anything flashy. I just need to go in, run laps, come out the other side clean. That's the biggest thing. I mean, you know how big of a crapshoot some of these races turn when you get late yellows and whatnot. I just need to be able to be fast, execute with my team, and just get it all out of the way. And hopefully, at the end of the day at Homestead, we're looking at the sheet for contender, and we're locked in.
Well, a second-place finish here tonight for you, Caden. Congratulations. Again, a hard-fought race for you to the end between you, Seth the Merchant, and the likes. We'll hopefully be talking to you in 2 weeks from Homestead, Miami, but that's going to be everything from Bristol Dirt.
I just want to say thank you to Jacob Hall. He's insane. He races dirt in real life. He's one of the best teammates we have. Insane help all week. Patrick Moose, he wasn't in this race. He's not in Road to Pro, but I guarantee if he was, he would have been right there with me. Insanely fast. Had to learn from him all week. Anthony, anybody on Nexus, just thank you for everything. Thank you to my girlfriend. Love you. Just everything. Anyone who helped me, just thank you.
That is going to be your second-place finisher in Caden Rush, and we'll go back to James Pike up in the booth.
Yeah, so I think we came into tonight expecting a wild card. If anything, Caleb, the storyline of the night, I think by and large, were just the two different schools of thought on how to run this racetrack. Whether or not you wanted to do it sort of the racer's way and be down along the inside and run the dirt, or whether or not you were willing to take the risk to just shove your car to the fence to try and get that extra tenth. That's really, I think, the main storyline that I think of when I look back on this evening, and how that affected everything for not just the drivers who were sort of at the center of both of those schools of thought, but for everybody else in this field.
Yeah, don't want to give it too much attention, but obviously it was very nice to see your top three was, a lot of drivers who fought for it cleanly and just went out and raced each other. And Seth the Merchant did fantastic there, as well as Caden Rush, who we spoke to, and guys that really needed good runs tonight. Most of the field throughout, played it clean, gave each other room, gave each other space, lots of smart driving out there that we saw for the most part, and got to commend everybody there. Obviously, as we go into Homestead, hoping for that same thing going um into Homestead. But like you said, main storyline is definitely some of that stuff we saw up inside the top five.
And how that will affect the points here. Just got word that the other race has finished. Michael P. Frisch was your winner. Then Zach Nichols, Daniel Botafuco, Cody Harris, Anthony Brose, your top five there. Then Matthew Zwack, Brian Mercurio, Brian LaPrade, Christopher Pfeffer, and Boyd Hogan. I have nothing yet so far as eventual points updates. So we don't quite know where everybody in the top 20 stands entering that last race. But I would say safe bet, pretty safe bet, given how things panned out, at least for Botafuco, and especially with that top three, that if he hasn't already clinched a position in the Contender Series, that starting the race at Homestead Miami will probably do that. Hurst is going to have a little bit more work to do just because tonight he finished 20th. That may have been his worst finish in the second round of the Contender Series outright. Can't quite tell immediately just off the math, but enough to where he's going to have a little bit of work to do at Homestead Miami just to make sure that the drops don't affect him that much. And as we get a good look here now, taking a peek at things, can confirm unofficially, if you ever were, but we've got Botafuco 59 points to the good as it stands. And we'll see if that shakes out a little bit differently as more of the results come in. But if that is the case, then Botafuco is in the Contender Series, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's run so consistently throughout here in round two. And Taylor Hurst, like you mentioned, probably didn't have the night that he wanted, but for the most part, did a good job and just was involved in a few things. And again, that's to be expected here at Bristol Dirt. I think you come in here game planning, maybe hoping for the best, but planning for the worst in terms of what you're trying to do at Homestead.
All righty. Well, thank you all for tuning in to FTF.GG's coverage of round two of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series at the Dirt at Bristol Motor Speedway. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time at the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway, where we will wrap everything up. For our producer, Zach Johnson, and my colleague in the booth, Caleb Hoffman, I'm James Pike. Good night from Thunder Valley. We'll see you down in Miami.